All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you're listening to us, please subscribe to this podcast so it gets it out to more people. We do have two special guests that have been on before. If you want to find more about them, go to generationalchange.com. It is JENerational change.com. And then you can also watch the podcast. Definitely check it out. It's a great progressive podcast. And we do have Jen Perelman, and also he's making faces in the back on the impression man himself will be on here. Oh, I bumped my phone. I'm sorry, Peter. And we do have Peter on. So Peter, thanks so much for coming on. Sorry for the brain fog I've been suffering with. So if I screw up names and stuff, I apologize. But thanks so much for coming on, guys.
Well, when you lose your Oz, you lose a lot more. So, it's all good.
All right. So we're here to talk Florida politics. I remember you a while back had Anna Eskamani on, who I was hoping would run for governor. Obviously, she did not, and I don't think it was her time. She's a young legislator. She's doing amazing things for the state of Florida. Again, like I said, I hope she would have ran, but she didn't. So now we're stuck with a former Republican that lost in 2014. A woman that ran with him and lost in 2014 to Rick Scott, and Nikki Fried, who I don't know. I'm just
like she's against bad things and for good things. I can't believe that tweet she put out. Like it can't even, it writes itself.
I watched a Miami Beach Democratic meeting, and she was there, and there was literally no policy on the Zoom meeting. It was literally fully platitudes. So what do you guys think of these candidates? And we'll move to the Senate race with Val Demings in a minute, but what do you guys think of these candidates? It seems like it's a Governor DeSantis win, unfortunately, in 2022.
I think it's an easy DeSantis win.
It's not even, which is why I'm actually thankful that Anna Eskamani did not jump in this year. I think that this year is a lost cause. I do. And I think that and maybe if there were somebody spectacular, but of the three people, not one of those people. And by the way, we think that Charlie and Annette are working together, and she's basically to be the spoiler against Nikki down here in South Florida. And then she would be the lieutenant to him when if he were to win. Right. Yeah, that's what I think. But it doesn't matter because DeSantis is winning. Like this most ridiculous.
The only way the Democrats are ever going to take the governorship back again is in an open year race. They're never beating an incumbent Republican, especially and then now that you add in that it's a red wave year. I mean, when you read the article in Politico from about 4 or 5 months ago that basically indicated that the Democratic national donors have no interest in the statewide races here.
They were writing off Florida. They said they're not going to put any of their effort towards Florida.
And the only candidate who has, whose establishment, who even has a reasonable amount of political acumen, Val Demings, they're coming after her like guns blazing, saying, why are you giving up your House seat? I'm glad she's giving it up because there is a fantastic progressive who is running by the name of Maxwell Frost. He is running to, win her seat. And right now it looks like he's tracking in that direction. So
that's actually a win for us overall. That's a net positive, actually. But she has no chance of beating Rubio. None.
But just to go into this, is this that not just the Florida Democrats, but I know you just talked about this, Peter, that the national Democrats are writing off Florida in general. We saw the Biden campaign. I talked to Anna Eskamani about this, that the Biden campaign didn't even really come down here and contest. I mean, I know Obama came down twice at the end, but they really didn't do much door knocking or anything, where the Trump campaign had been in Florida since 2016, going strong into 2020. So it's just, are they saying that Florida is just a lost cause and it's just Republican and they're going to move on to Arizona, or Texas or whatever? Go ahead.
I think they think that, but that's because they have no idea what they're talking about. Right. See, I think Florida is lost to corporate centrist blues. I do. I think that is lost. Florida is red, but it's a populist red. We voted very heavily for a $15 minimum wage, which is why even though they've had Bernie really campaigned here, I actually think that would have made a difference. But for the typical run-of-the-mill Clinton-esque type of Dem, yeah, it is a lost cause. There's no chance that a Democrat like that could win this state. That's what I think. So if that's what they're thinking, then yeah, they shouldn't waste their resources here.
But I went to school in Boca. I was down there for over 5 years, actually, well, 7 actually to be exact. And I have a lot of good friends. I'm Italian, but obviously, Boca is a huge Jewish community. I talk to all these Jewish people. There's a very few of them are very progressive. A lot of them are the centrist Hillary Clinton voters. I asked these people why they didn't like Bernie. And a lot of these guys marched. Actually, a good friend of mine, he was an elderly guy. He lived in Boca West. And he said he marched with, Al Sharpton, and I mean, they're not the greatest guys, but they were marching at the time for somewhat progressive causes. He says, oh, Bernie's too pie in the sky. He can't win. And I kept hearing that from Jewish people throughout Boca, throughout South Florida.
Yeah,
That's a very small.
But you're hearing it from affluent Jewish people
in a
who
small part
do
of
not
Florida.
care whatsoever about what goes on in the real world. And I can say this on authority because I lived in Del Rey for 7 years.
Right.
Boca Raton is an extremely affluent, insulated. It's Beverly Hills East is what it is.
Yeah.
They have this way of looking at the world through the lens of, I can vote based on how I feel, not based on what we need. That's a big part of the problem. Now, one would say, well, you could vote however which way you want. The truth of the matter is, people with means always vote. Always. They'll never miss an election. But people who are struggling, they are not eager to vote. In fact, one thing you heard very often, especially in 2016 with Bernie, was a lot of people were voting that had never voted before, never had an interest in voting before.
And also non-Democrats.
And so now they felt like, well, I may actually have a champion. Somebody might actually do something for me if they became president. And as soon as they started to screw him, that just reaffirmed to them, like, oh, I don't want anything to do with this. Why would I waste my time? We already know the game's rigged, and now they're doing it right in the open. So.
But I think that also you're talking about a very small population in the state. Florida is a red state with few little blue areas, one of which you're talking about. But here's the thing. In order for somebody to win Florida, you can't just win blue voters. You have to win red voters, and you have to win independents, because Florida numbers are red. We just are. So somebody like Hillary is never in a million years going to win over a populist, like a libertarian, independent, or someone even Republican. But Bernie can. Bernie reaches those people because through labor and through things that are populist ideas. And a centrist Dem does not have that. But Boca is a small microcosm.
And the Democrats have been coasting, literally, on Obama's 3-point victory from 2008 for quite some time. This is a state that has gone red since 1968. This state has gone blue 3 times. That's it. And one time by the skin of its teeth in 2012.
Florida's red. It is.
So
they just don't want to admit
Trump
that.
won in 2016 by 1.5 points. And then he won again by 3 points. And this state just keeps trending in the direction of, we're just not going to invest in this state anymore. We are going to literally give up 30 electoral votes and try to win Texas with Beto O'Rourke as our standard bearer.
Good luck with that. Beto, I'm coming for your guns. O'Rourke thinks he's going to win in Texas.
But the biggest problem that I think the Democratic Party has, and we've been saying this for a long time, and you're Italian, so and I'm from New Jersey.
He just feels like he's Italian by osmosis.
Well, of course. I mean, I grew up with these guys. These freaking paisanos over here.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the party that was once the party of Jimmy Hoffa is no longer the party of Jimmy Hoffa. It is not the party of labor. It is the party of bougie liberals in the burbs and in the urban city dwellings.
And in places like Boca.
So when they have and the truth is that Boca is actually more Republican than it is Democrat. But the point is that they have the megaphone. Like, do you follow some of the so-called influencers on social media? Like, do you know who Don Winslow is, for example? Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay. Well, if you saw him, this guy is classic New York City, sold like 15 books, is given the type of megaphone that only a wealthy liberal who has no care in the world for real issues, they'll always have a voice in politics, but right now they're the ones who are literally driving the ship. And that's a big problem. Those are not the people who should be anywhere near the levers of power when it comes to Democratic Party politics. And unfortunately, because their influence is so grandiose at this point, it literally turns off working class people to vote GOP.
It does.
Almost in spite of the fact that maybe Democrats would be at this moment slightly better. But at this point, we don't need slightly better. We need a party of
Yeah, but the reality is the Democrats, they are, and Andrew Yang says it best, they are so sanctimonious. They are so sanctimonious. And regular people are really turned off by that. First of all, most people are actually nonpartisan, party affiliated. That's the majority of people are non-party affiliated. And the Dems have been losing members since 16 like a sieve, right? So they're hemorrhaging. The GOP's probably stayed remotely the same. And most people are switching to no party affiliation.
We are two very trustworthy people. And I can assure you on good authority that people who would never say it in public in a million years, not only voted for Trump, but loved voting for him. And it's one of those things where polite society has basically put people in the shadows, as they say, but the shadows speak very loudly at times. And they're going to speak very loudly again in 9 months.
Oh, and when it's going to be a slaughtering down here, back to Florida politics, it's going to be a landslide.
Yeah.
I got to bring this up because I interviewed Sean Shaw. I know you guys remember this. This is going back to, I know you were an Andrew Gillum guy, Peter. So this is right up your alley. And I met Andrew Gillum 3 times, and I met him the day before I met him the second time. And he remembered my name. He remembered what we spoke about. He was a great politician. Yes, now he screwed himself because of whatever happened. If it was depression or if he was just hiding all this stuff inside, we don't know. But interviewing Sean Shaw, he told me that and I wanted to ask you guys this because you're still down in this neck of the woods. He said he talked to supervisors of elections in Miami, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And they told him there was a lot of voters that skipped the 2 black guys at the top of the ticket and voted for Nikki Fried, Jeremy Ring, and Democrats down the board. He said he heard that multiple times. And he says, what does that scream to you? And I said, it screams racism. But the Democrats always call racism on the Republicans, but they never call it on themselves.
Well, I've got two ways I could respond with that. Number one, I can tell you the race card. I can tell you that a lot of old Jews are very racist.
That is
exceptionally racist. No one wants to talk about it because they are considered a protected class. And so because they're a protected class, you can't call them out when they say the S word, which is the N word in their language.
Do you know, we don't need to get into that, but it's a tribal thing, but you are going to say that is not why Andrew Gillum
lost. But that is not why Andrew Gillum lost.
Yeah, I know. He screwed up Medicare for all.
No, it's much deeper than that because, listen, and I've met Sean.
Hillary stuff.
Sean, and listen, Sean's a good guy, but he's a party line guy. There's no 2 ways about it. And so if Andrew Gillum loses and Bill Nelson loses, it's not an excuse. So you can use that because Ron DeSantis is at least a palatable politician, whereas Rick Scott is literally Satan himself. And so the idea that you're going to use that as an excuse doesn't fly. Now,
but what about the Miami-Dade County? Remember the Trump guy? He sent the bombs to Hillary Clinton, and that post office was closed down.
That's all that stuff is what you call distraction. Most, if not everything that the media will give you, especially corporate media, is meant to divide and conquer and distract.
Andrew Gillum lost because he changed from his primary campaign, which was a progressive campaign, and he then brought in a whole bunch of like mainstream centrist consultant DC type people. And then he started campaigning along with people like Hillary and Bloomberg and Davie. And he completely alienated himself from the progressives, which are the reason that she was able to beat Gwen Graham in the first place. So that's why he lost in the general.
He ran one of the best primary elections I've ever seen.
I didn't vote for him in the general. I didn't.
Wow, I didn't.
I didn't vote for him in the general. I didn't vote for DeSantis. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like a crazy person, but he showed up down here with a kippah on his head, with Davie and Bloomberg and Hillary, and that was it. That was it for me. Now you're with them. And now that's it.
And
You know, he
did-
really screwed Bernie in 2022 too. He never came out and endorsed. Bernie came down here like 3 or 4 times. I went to the rally at UCF in the primary, and then he went to UCF again. He went to USF 2 or 3 times, and then he was trashing Bernie throughout the primary. That was really dirty, man.
Well,
That was
listen,
dirty.
He got in with those other people, and that was it.
And here's what people need to know about what Gillum did after he won the primary. He took $1 million from Tom Steyer. He took $1 million from George Soros. Took $1 million from that gentleman in Fort Lauderdale. I keep forgetting Don Sussman.
Mhm.
When you take their money, that comes with conditions.
Then you're their bitch.
And so when he shows up at Century Village in Pembroke Pines Temple with Debbie and
Keep
Bloomberg,
on head.
what that does is that's what's known in politics as a net negative.
It's what I call the reverse of the kente cloth tales, which is it's an anthology of tone deafness that we talk about in here. It's the reverse of the kente cloth.
What you think is your objective in this circumstance is not what you're ultimately going to get out of it, because you get 2 things. You get pissed off progressives who do not want to see you anywhere near Debbie Wasserman Schultz with a 10-foot pole. He called her my sister from another mother. He started playing that type of garbage. And when you're with
Not
Bloomberg, who literally has systemically taken over one of the most important corporate wings of the whole Democratic Party.
He bought.
Isn't
the
he
Florida
close with
Party.
Manny Diaz?
Bloomberg,
Aren't they?
He hit Bloomberg and Debbie are the reason why Manny Diaz is the head of the Florida Democratic Party. Now, Anna will never say it publicly, and neither will anybody else, but off the record, they will tell you that Manny Diaz is basically a turncoat. Like he's
a Republican.
But he's a Republican. He doesn't lift a hand to help anybody. And so when people are wondering why isn't he doing this, it's because they deliberately are sabotaging your party.
Yes.
You don't get it?
They had no money. The party is pathetic. They take money,
it
and
is.
they were taking money already from Walmart and Big Sugar. Anyway, I guess they had money issues. And so Bloomberg rescued them financially. Basically, Bloomberg bought the Florida Democratic Party and installed Manny Diaz.
And I'm very friendly with his ex-wife, and I don't hold back. I'm like, look, hey, you get what you deserve. You want to play that? You want to play this game? Unfortunately, she is support for hire. She doesn't really, she's a Democrat, but she doesn't really care one way or the other. For the people who are really, really struggling and really need this, a real populist uprising, it's all happening on the right. The only reason why it's taking on the right is because there isn't this active push as of yet, could change, this active push on the right to have non-corporate candidates running for office.
Which we'd be happy to
Once that starts, that's when all hell's going to break
when there's
loose.
Real right side populists. And that's what I keep telling you, like, you didn't support Bernie, which is why I think Bernie could have been successful here, whereas other Democrats could not, because there is a populist uprising here. We did pass a $15 minimum wage. We got more votes for that than Trump got.
No Democrats, though, campaigned for the $15 minimum wage in Florida.
Correct. And so what was also very interesting, which I also have to point out, is that not only was Gillum's stunt with Debbie and Bloomberg pissing off progressives, that's what riles up conservatives. That's what gets them excited about, like, getting off their ass and being like, oh, Gillum's with those guys? Forget it. I'm definitely voting for DeSantis, and I'm going to get out there and make sure that we vote against him. That's a net negative in politics. And that was Gillum's fatal flaw.
Yeah.
If you don't trust, your capability, but then maybe Gillum wasn't the person who we thought that he was.
And I can't stand they play the race card. And there is undoubtedly a racism situation
100%.
everywhere all the time. I'm not saying that, but that's not why he lost.
Now, listen, you could say what you want about Nikki Fried, but the reason why Nikki broke through is 2 reasons. Number one, it's a position that no one really pays attention to.
Nobody cares.
Is in an exceptionally important position. She had a lot of money behind her in that race. And she was also very close with State Senator Manny Diaz in Miami. And he was able to basically get the Cuban vote to flip in her direction.
Was that, and then there was the connection to John Morgan.
But if you're a progressive, who do you vote for in the primary?
Okay, so when you're talking as to between Charlie Crist, Annette Taddeo, and Nikki Fried, right? I want to tell you, in all seriousness, and I'm being totally serious, that's the kind of primary where I wouldn't vote in that. Because between the 3 of them, I don't care. And the truth is, none of them are going to beat him anyway. So that's one of those primaries that's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
I would vote for whoever is making an active push to support down ballot candidates that are not running on corporate money. If there's anybody out there
who is that person on the governor? Who is running for governor? There's 3 non-corporate candidates for Senate that we, again, I don't think that there's a good chance.
You know what? You know what's funny? If there was $5 million earmarked right now for her to run for governor, I guarantee you she'd probably have a chance to knock all 3 of them off in a race.
Oh, that's ridiculous. You're
Yeah,
right.
what happened to, I know the redistricting is still going on. What happened to the Debbie's district?
Won't know till June. Whenever is the last possible day
They don't have to
that
do it.
DeSantis has to do it.
Yeah, they don't have to do it until the end of qualifying period for candidates. So even though the primary is in August, they think that 2 months would be a sufficient amount of time for somebody to mount a grassroots campaign that relies very heavily on knowing where your district is. Now, for an incumbent like Debbie, it really doesn't matter where the lines are, because she'll blanket the whole cities with mailers and TV ads if she needs to, and it won't matter where the lines are. But for a grassroots campaign, it matters immensely where the lines are.
Of course.
And they know that. So that was,
which is also why when
this was another reason why running this year, I thought for a lot of races, not just against Debbie, but all around, I thought this year is going to be a train wreck for people on the left.
But is this a lot because of Biden and that Build Back Better was a sham and he hasn't got anything done, hasn't done anything on healthcare?
It doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help.
No,
the Dems are feckless and have nothing.
But I think I think what this is that we're in sort of a new awakening period. Most people who came, sort of came on the scene within the last 5 years, sort of the Bernie Trump phenomenon. It's this whole, you were excitable, you were happy about being involved in politics, and now you're really learning how the sausage is made, and you're learning who's really fighting on your behalf and who isn't fighting on your behalf. And so as a result, now people are starting to take note of the fact that people who are bought by corporate special interests will never serve you, ever. And so if that's the case, then you have to make a concerted effort to say, I'm only voting for candidates who are not bought by corporate money. And once that becomes the consensus of politics, no matter what party you're in, then that's when things are going to change. And it's no different than anybody out there who is fool's gold fighting for a third party. You have no chance in hell of establishing a third party that's viable. What you could do is build a third party through nonpartisan seats, which is right there for the taking. You have city council, county commission, school board. They are non-party affiliated seats.
And you get people like Kashama Sawant in those kinds of seats, and it's nonpartisan, and that's where you can have the most impact, but not in the national.
Kashama Sawant is an admitted socialist,
right? And
she is in one of the most corporate cities in the whole country, and they literally throw the kitchen sink at her to get her out.
I love her so.
And they can't get her out. Why? Because she's not bought and she serves the people.
And the truth, I would vote for a non-corporate Republican before I would vote for a corporate Democrat. Because the reality is, if you vote for people that aren't being bought, then they have to answer to constituents, so they'll get voted out. They're not being backed by money. So it's like, I'll vote for somebody, and if the people don't like them, then they'll vote them out. But I'll vote non-corporate over anything else.
And if people are tired of the two-party system, there is a way to be involved. You just can't. You can't follow the grifters that are out there. No offense, but it's the truth.
There's a lot of grifters.
But there is a way to do this. There is.
Yeah.
We have people here locally that when they're running for office, and then there's sort of these come to Jesus moments, Rob, that people need to have about where they should be and
they don't
running and who
we're working on a book that might encourage said people that are potential candidates to have a come to Jesus moment as to the viability of said candidacy.
What's going to happen with the Ted Deutsch seat that's up now in Boca Del Rey?
Yeah.
Who?
Jared Moskowitz.
It's over.
It's Moskowitz.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whatever. 6 of one, half of.
He was appointed by DeSantis to county commission, so now his seat is going to be. But there's like 3 different seats on county commission that are up, and you see that, of course, Bobby DeBose is running for Dale Holness's seat.
Shock.
Jared Moskowitz is so centrist. I listen. He does a podcast with that guy Pete Shores from FloridaPolitics.com. They do a podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to it.
Pete Shores is,
I mean, those guys, it's the whitest.
But that district,
Republic. It's almost like the liberalist podcast you could ever listen to, like Hillary Clinton-ish.
But here's the thing.
But that's that
But here's the
district.
thing. If
That's
we had,
Parkland.
Disgusting.
but if the Democratic Party was a party of labor, Pete Shorts in particular would not be in the Democratic Party. He just wouldn't. He's a very affluent liberal from Tampa Bay.
But
Right.
what is that?
The Democratic Party, as of today, is an affluent liberal party.
They're very elitist. Like they come off elitist, and it is a big
Right, they
turnoff.
do.
But like Ted Deutsch, he's just sort of a neutral person. He's not ruffling any feathers. He's not fighting for anything, but he doesn't piss people off either. And he's a really nice guy. So his people tend to like him, even though he's really kind of feckless.
The
and doesn't do
Democrats are
anything.
also,
That's
yeah.
a lost
If you're
cause.
looking at it from a strategic standpoint, you could say what you want, but the truth of the matter is they're at least being somewhat smart about the seat. They know that Moskowitz is popular. His father is, listen, I'm not going to compare the two people, but Jared Moskowitz is where he is, much like Matt Gaetz is where
Why
he
don't you
is.
say Moskowitz?
I don't know. Moskowitz?
It's Moskowitz.
Whatever.
That's the difference with someone growing up tribe and someone not growing
Yeah.
up tribe.
So Jared Moskowitz is where he is, with all due respect, Jared, much like Matt Gaetz is where he is because dad laid the foundation. And as a result, he is popular. He is extremely close to Fred Guttenberg. So once those things are established and the smoke signals go out that this is where the money's going, this
They're
is
just
where
gonna
the
fall in
endorsements
line.
are going, it's like there's no point in running against him
No,
because
and-
you're wasting your time
And the
you're
truth
wasting
is
your money.
that is a very neo-lib type of district.
It is.
So it's that
Boca Raton and Parkland.
it really is. It's
But
a
wasn't
neo-lib.
Wexler not that bad though when he was in Congress?
Who?
Wexler, Robert Wexler.
Yeah, he was all right, but we're looking at where we are now, and as soon as Deutsch christens him, that's it. The race is done. But that's basically what's going to happen. It's essentially already happened.
Yeah, by the way, I grew up in South Florida. There's no shortage of wealthy Moskowitzes. No shortage of wealthy Moskowitz. I don't know.
Who challenges though, as far as, because somebody has to challenge Biden, but who does it?
Honestly, I truthfully don't see anybody that would be able to really garner the real kind of populist movement that
But
you would
isn't the
need.
squad kind of getting weak now? That's kind of old hat.
There was a political article that came out 6 months ago that floated Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, and Joel Sandberg. And
Okay.
Nina,
Which is kind of a random thing, though, because I had never even heard of Joe until that.
Yeah, no, and we both thought that the heir apparent to Bernie's movement was Nina. Like, we
Right,
always
of course.
assumed that was who it would be. But Nina wants
She's
to go to
running again.
Congress, and that's her goal. And, we're going to go to Cleveland in about a month and a half, and, we're going to lend a hand. We love her. And there's something about Nina, as we always like to say.
It's like electoral politics is certainly not the be all end all. It
Right.
really isn't. And we get that. But within electoral politics, Nina is the be all end all.
She is.
And that's just the way it is. And I understand people are pissed that she's running as a Dem and the politics and and electoral.
geez.
I get it. But inside the system, there is nobody, you won't get somebody better than
Right.
her inside.
And the
just the
vitriol
truth.
that is thrown in her direction
It's
is
infuriating.
infuriating. The one significant difference I would say between her and Marianne Williamson is Marianne doesn't have any comments in her history that would suggest that she's an evil Democrat. Like, she's not part of the team. Like, Nina unfortunately had that bowl of you-know-what comment, and they ran with that in Cleveland.
It was on a loop like 24/7.
When we were in Cleveland, they had billboards of her making the comment and having like a bowl of poop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like, that's how much they invested in sticking it to her and trying to
And
associate
that's not
her
going
with
away,
Biden.
by the way.
No, it's not. It's going to stay.
Although right now, after Biden's performance, it's not going to sting to people as much as it probably did.
No,
then.
and the truth of the matter is, and this is something that, credit to Marianne, because that's really what she's focused on, is this whole idea of, all right, look, if Congress is broken, it's broken, but what is the president capable of doing? And the truth is, the president is capable of doing a lot.
Right.
And everyone who pretends like he can't cancel student debt. He can't expand Medicare
Yeah,
and a
even
healthcare
just
crisis.
right, like we're
Right.
talking just executive order
Yeah.
stuff.
He could decriminalize cannabis. He could decriminalize all drugs. He can expunge nonviolent drug offenders' records. I mean, there is endless amount of stuff
Yeah.
he can do. But when you're bought by corporate interests, you're not doing it.
That's why when people turn around and start saying, "Oh, it's Manchin, it's cinema," no, they're definitely douchebags. There's no doubt about it.
Rotating villain.
They're the rotating villain. But the reality is, and this is to me, if Joe Biden, who's the president of the United States, wanted Build Back Better, we'd
He would
have it.
Mhm.
And I don't care. He would make Manchin an offer you can't refuse because that's the president of the United States. So
Well, Rob, as I like to tell people, it's very important that if something would have happened.
I'm a pothead. You interrupt my thought. It makes it very difficult to get it back.
But Manchin's daughter,
I'm just saying that
Right.
we seem to put so much credence in that office, like the president. So important. We spend all of our time talking
But he
about
can't be
Trump.
criticized because he can't do anything.
Well, no, not that he can't be criticized, but all of a sudden we actually believe that he's being held up by Joe Manchin. So let me get this straight. This is the most powerful position in the world that we're so stressed and worried about that, oh my God, Donald Trump was so powerful and scary. But yet Biden can't give Manchin a what for and get him in line. I don't buy it.
You gotta give comfortable liberals credit. They really know how to twist themselves into a pretzel to get to the conclusion that they're looking for.
Like, do you think LBJ
Right.
blamed it on Joe Manchin or a parliamentarian?
He would have grabbed him by the throat. I know a person, and I'm sure you know where Celebration, Florida is near Disney. It's a very well-off area.
It's not even real, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, the guy that I know that lives in there, he says that Joe Biden is the best president of our lifetime, of his lifetime. And he's 74 years old. And I told him, I said, you're on heavy medication, man.
Rob, how much you want to bet that he voted for Reagan? I would bet any amount.
Oh, he voted
of
for
money.
Bush. He voted for Reagan. He's
Of
a former
course.
Republican. He voted for Trump the first time. Then he went to Biden because they don't like the way how Trump talks.
That's it.
Yeah.
And at
Because
the
he
end,
hurts their feelings
This
and
is-
he says the quiet part out
this
loud.
is what, listen, you can say what you want about conservatives, but if you talk to any conservative, they are going to tell you exactly why they're voting for somebody. I want my taxes lower. I don't want my Second Amendment messed with. I like living in a neighborhood where I don't have to worry about gay people running around. They will tell you
Don't
exactly.
want those trannies using the bathrooms.
They will, but they will vote. And again, conservatives vote on policy, whether you agree with it or not. They vote on policy almost exclusively. Liberals, especially comfortable liberals, are all status quo 24/7.
They vote about their feelings.
They do not. You will never get them to cite a policy that they want you to fight for. That's why they get there. There's always this tendency to put Trump supporters and Bernie supporters in the same category because they're both populist. This idea that they want the
They are
exact
both
same
populist.
thing.
Well, okay, Trump's not really a populist, but in terms of the campaign message they projected is what we're talking about.
The reality is the people who are the most comfortable are the ones who are the most active. They are the ones who are on Twitter all day long, commenting on every thread and always getting involved in fights and patting each other on the back and talking about how great they are and all those things.
Sanctimonious.
Sanctimonious behavior
sanctimonious.
is what is dominating Democratic Party politics, and it is going to hurt in a way that hasn't been felt maybe worse than 2010 or 94.
Oh, I think it's going to be like
really,
unseen.
really bad.
I want to end with this because I know you guys got to roll for the show at 8:00, but talking about Kamala, the standard bearer, that's what I'm worried about. No one runs against her. And
No
if she
chance.
runs against DeSantis or
Oh,
Trump, she's dead.
Well, we've already accepted that our next president is either Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis.
I
Like
am
I accept
I am
that.
pretty confident that Biden is not going to run again. Well, we'll have to see to believe
And
it.
even
Won't
if
know.
he does,
Yeah.
he barely won in a pandemic.
There is going to be,
Right.
hear me now, quote me later, Rob, and we can end on this note. There will be a primary in the Democratic Party in 24.
A Buttigieg is in there, I assume.
Yeah, well, yeah, but again,
You're going to have, in terms of the establishment, you're going to have a who's who. Buttigieg will run again. Klobuchar will run again. Kamala obviously is going to run.
and they'll join up again and join together at the end to crush whoever it is who decides to be like the progressive.
Now,
person.
the question is whoever the progressive challenger going to be wise enough, smart enough, plan ahead to know that this is what's coming, that they are going to coalesce behind whichever corporate candidate they can to crush the progressive movement.
Well, if it's Kamala, they're going to do the race and the sexism stuff again.
But the reality is she is so completely unpopular and incapable. She didn't win a single primary.
First of all,
She didn't even get to the primary.
Right.
And let me say this. The one thing about the people who go after Nina Turner, a Black woman who literally comes from humble beginnings. Sorry, Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala.
No one attacks Nina Turner harder than the K-Hive. Nobody goes after her in a more vitriolic way than those people. So,
and by those people, he means K-Hive.
Yeah. Hear me now, quote me later. So if they think that you're just going to be able to play the identity politics card, look, it didn't work. It's not going to work next time. The country is way too populist yearning, and we're way too
gay
at
Mayo
odds.
Pete is not going to help either. That's just Hillary in a gay man costume as opposed to a Indian Black woman costume.
We don't need McKinsey. What we need are people who are not bought by corporate interests that will serve the people, and that's it.
I would like to also, while we mentioned K-Hive, I'm going to say this publicly for some. I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's contrived. I think that it's like a handful of people in a small online community. And I think it's for the most part bots. And I think it's paid for.
Oh, it's definitely paid for.
Exactly. I don't think that she has that kind of fan base. I don't. I think it's completely contrived because otherwise nobody would like her.
By the way, ask Richard Wolff. You've interviewed Richard Wolff.
I have not, but we're trying. We can't get, he won't come on. I don't know why.
Why?
I don't know. He's always busy. That's what his assistant tells us.
Is that Juliet? Julietta? Yeah. Wow, that's really weird.
Stop.
Because he was friendly with Kamala Harris's father. I don't know if you knew that. And he's a way out socialist guy. He's still at Stanford, but she never brings him up. It's only about the mother and the Indian side. It's never about
because apparently the father called her out for being a phony, and that
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Once that happens, that's not good. That's usually pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, look, the Democratic Party is in disarray. They were only able to win because we had an incumbent president who could not handle a crisis.
Right. And they barely won. But I feel like saying, I told so many people in 2015, I swear to you, I remember during the Hillary and Bernie thing, I would say to people, your next president is either going to be Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. Yeah. And nobody took that seriously because Bernie was the compromise. And so now we are where we are, and they're going to do it again. Yeah. And so now, although now I really don't think there is somebody who can do what Bernie did.
Yeah, no, I said in 2015, I said, you're either going to get a peaceful revolution with Bernie or you're going to get a violent one with Trump. You decide how you want it because it's coming.
But and now we're saying, I'm saying you're an ex-president.
And the last thing I'll say, because we really got to go.
The
audacity of the Democrats to cry electoral fraud foul on the Republican side. The Democrats literally rigged primaries.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
gerrymander out the yin-yang.
Rigged them. And after the gerrymandering job they just pulled in New York State, they should never talk again for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Alex Padilla is in the Senate. He rigged that primary in California.
Goddamn right Bernie. He did. That was Gavin Newsom saying, good job, pal. Here's your reward.
Right. And that's it.
Hey,
anyways,
remember, Republicans don't have super delegates, right? Like that's a very undemocratic thing.
But
so elitist. The whole nature of it is.
But credit to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who went on national television and said, we have super delegates to prevent grassroots progressive.
Because we don't need regular people telling us what to do.
Don't you know your place?
You peasants.
Rob, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Before we go, can you tell people where they can find more about you?
You do it, your radio voice.
Well, if you really like what we have to offer, it's generationalchange.com. You can follow us
with a J.
With a J, JENerational change.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GenFL23 and follow Jen Perelman on Facebook. We appreciate your support.
All right. Keep watching, guys. And thanks so much. And definitely check out their podcast. Guys, thanks so much. We'll catch you soon.
Adios,
all right.
brother.
All right. Good luck.
Wicked awesome.
Bye-bye.